1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome back to the Country and Cold Cans podcast. I'm your host, Logan. Before we get started today, I just want to remind everybody to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Get the good word out there on all these artists out here that deserve a little bit more attention than they're getting. And while you're at it, go by the website on oakcitydrifters.com/shop and pick out one of our brand new Country and Cold Cans koozies. Be able to support the podcast a little bit and, get a badass koozie at that. All right, today's episode, we got a very special guest, man. We got a Texas artist with us right out of, what is it? Is it Godley, Texas? Am I pronouncing that right?
Godley, Texas. You're one of the first people that have actually got it right.
Oh, yeah? So, yeah. Sitting here, yeah, I understand that, man. People mess up my last name all the time, so, I relate. But yeah, I'm sitting here with Austin Upchurch after he just released about 2 months ago, roughly July 10th, I think, a banger of a record called Breakdown. So how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. We're finally starting to get back on the road and stuff like that. So it's a really good time. I'm finally happy to get back out and all that kind of stuff. So
I hear that, dude. So I guess that kind of is a good segue into my first question I have for you, because it's been really weird, with this kind of the first thing that any of us have ever gone through that's been on a pandemic level. So, you put out the record July 10th and normally, the record promotion, you do interviews, you tour behind the record and everything, the normal grind, but probably weren't able to go through the normal process. Tell me a little bit about how that was to drop the record and then kind of the bars and the dance halls and everything not be open.
It was very weird, very wild, because it was our first full record to ever actually do as a band and all that stuff. All of our prior releases were pretty much, with the exception of the other one we put out in 2020 called Pearson Road.
Right.
That was the first time we ever really went into the studio with our entire band and actually got to play on stuff together. So it was very weird in the sense of it was our first time doing it. We were expecting hey, we got this, let's do some interviews and all this kind of stuff. And with Corona, it didn't help because we had a few things that we were going to do. So that's what really killed that. But also, for us coming out with the first record that we've ever put out, I wasn't necessarily anticipating a lot of interviews and stuff like that, I guess.
Right.
Lined up. So it was kind of heartbreaking to lose those, I guess, especially we had a big album release show and all kinds of stuff that we had planned that we lost. So
oh man, that's
kind of stunk not being able to do all that. But at the same time, we had a lot of random out of nowhere kind of success with Spotify, which really kind of made up for it, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, man. It's kind of funny you mentioned Spotify because on our Country and Cold Cans Twitter, I ran across your name and I saw some people within that scene that I kind of respect, and they were giving you some shout outs. So I was like, all right, I got to check this guy out. And me and my normal co-host Andy, who is he's busy today, so he wasn't able to hop on, but he I told him, I was like, dude, you got to check this record out. It's awesome. He was like, all right, I'll check it out. Next time he comes back, so I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. He was like, dude, that was a banger. He was like, so we were jamming to it all weekend, had it on the Sonos speakers, jamming it on Spotify. So Spotify was a big help for us being able to discover your music.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And it really helped us a lot with gaining new fans just within the past couple of months, because right before we put out the entire record, the editor for Spotify and country music, I guess, found our earliest release of 2020 called Pearson Road, and I guess he liked it. He just put it on this playlist called Texas Music Now. They have 350,000 listeners per day or something, so for us, we never really had that kind of audience. So our numbers were, they were in the double digits, but relatively low, in the teens, and so after that, we went from 13,000 monthly listeners to almost 50 pretty much.
It's a big jump up, man.
A couple days. Yeah, because as soon as that happened, 2 days later, we put out the record. So we had all these eyes that were on us for the first time. And then just by a stroke of luck, when everybody was really looking at it on that one song on that playlist and went, hey, man, this song is actually pretty good. Let's check him out. It was immediately, okay, now, bam, here's our new record. So it was completely unplanned, and Corona kind of completely just thrown out all of our planning stuff. So it was amazing how it all ended up just kind of working out in our favor.
For sure, man.
So it was.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I mean, hey, look, you need to get a little bit of good luck to be able to hit it big. So I'm glad that worked out. But I would guess it's safe to say that you're pretty pro streaming then, because I know that some artists are kind of 50-50 on it. I know there are a lot of pros and cons to streaming in the current modern day music world.
In theory, and like if you think about it, how it's supposed to be, streaming is quote unquote better because you have potential more money. But with the payout you get from streaming, it kind of sucks. But for me, I'm really just a record guy. I like something that I can, that's tangible, that I can hold. So I'm big on CDs and all that kind of stuff. So I would say I'm kind of in the 50-50 area.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you on that, because I think Spotify is it's bittersweet, because it's good in the sense that for independent artists that are starting out, people that don't have the big label promotion, their music is findable. You can it'll be put in some playlists like yours was, but at the same time, like you said, the payout isn't there. And also, I decry Spotify just a little bit, as much as I love it, just because modern music listeners don't listen to records anymore, man. I think it's a damn shame, because it's everybody wants to go to single format, and I'm a record guy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually funny because the distribution company that helps me out, they're based out of Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they told me right when they started working with me, before we even had the record, like back in 2017 or 2016. They were like, man, do 2 songs at a time, backsided singles. That way they always have 2 songs, and they're like, at the end of the year, you'll have 10 songs. Just at the end of the year, throw them on a record called.
Yeah.
And we did that for a while, and we had a little bit of success with it. But I was like, man, for me, and it was good because my guitar player, Reed Barton, he's the same way. He was like, we got into music because of records. We didn't get into
exactly
singles, even though everyone is, starting to have a lot of success with singles. You don't get to understand who an artist is and what they have to say and what their voice and all that stuff is through just a single most of the time. That's why I'm a record guy. If I want to dive into someone as a person and what's important to them and stuff, music's the best way to do that. So for me, I'm a record guy. I wanted to make a record. So
yeah, I feel you on that, because like for me, I'm the same way, just because it seems like these days, like you said, everybody's releasing singles to varying success. They're releasing small EPs instead of the full length album. And I kind of miss a little bit of the days when you had only heard maybe 1, maybe 2 songs off the album. And then once you got the album, it's like you were a kid on Christmas morning, like it was like you're diving right into it. Like all the music's brand new. Now, like you've heard 6 or 7 songs off the record before you even get it. It's just, it just isn't the same feeling anymore, but I guess that's the world we live in.
And the thing that's crazy about it is it's all just prolonging exposure with the world that we live in these days. With it's, if you put out a whole record that you're really proud of, people are going to enjoy it for at max 3 weeks before something else happens and they completely forget about it. So I understand what they mean by backsided singles. Put one out every couple months. That way you always consistently have like exposure, I guess.
Yeah.
In the media. So, I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, for me as an artist and a person and a music consumer, you can't beat a record. I mean, you don't feel for, like I said, and for me, I'm really big about this. Music is such a powerful thing for me. So I want to know who that person is that's singing it, why they're singing it, what the song's about and all that. And it, like I said, it's just really hard to get into all of that with just singles.
Oh yeah, man, I agree. Cause I'm still a big vinyl guy too for some of my favorite artists. Like I'm a big American Aquarium fan, and I mean hometown band, so big fan of theirs. And so I have like 3 to 4 of their records on vinyl right by my record player. Yeah, I mean it's just the way to go if you can. So
absolutely, man, I agree. I'm just now starting to get the vinyl bug.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a good collection to be able to have. But so go ahead.
I said I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, so I gotta.
Oh gosh, yeah, dude. I got to see him. Thank God, when I went to college at NC State here in Raleigh, and I got a chance to see Tom Petty in 2014 at PNC Arena, and I'm glad that I did now, obviously. But I would remember didn't have any money, broke as a joke, and tickets were like $60 to $80 for nosebleeds, and I was like, told my buddies, I was like, look, man, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to say we got to see Tom Petty. So we bit the bullet ate beanie weenies, and and went to the Tom Petty show.
The thing that was so tragic for me is I've been a huge Tom Petty fan for years. And I mean, for us, it's kind of hard to go out and catch shows a lot of times because we're doing our own thing. And
Right.
I told my dad literally the day before Tom Petty passed away, I was like, we have to see Tom Petty this year. Like, I will buy the tickets to the closest show tomorrow. We have to do it. I have to see Tom Petty. Next day, the first thing I saw when I woke up was Tom Petty died. And I was
Jeez,
like,
man, that sucks. Yeah, I understand that. That sucks. But so that's a good segue into I guess the next thing I wanted to ask you. Like, you were talking about you're a big Tom Petty fan. Like, who would you say are your biggest influences on your music, sonically, and when it comes to you as a songwriter?
okay, I'm going to really blow your mind here because it's probably in no way at all any people that you either know or have ever heard of.
Right.
So for me, the thing that made me want to be a musician and made me, because for me, like I said, music's powerful. So
Yeah, for sure.
Green Day, Boulevard of Broken Dreams came out 2000,
Okay.
and like I had a whole bunch of stuff going on in my young life at the time, and I was just real angsty, and I have anxiety and depression stuff,
Yeah.
or depression, not expression. And so for me, that was the first thing that was like, oh wow, other people feel this way. It's cool to not be cool all the time. Like you can have emotions, I guess. So Green Day is obviously up there for me, and punk rock as a whole, because for me, that's some of the most real music that there is. It's people singing about things that matter to them and
Right.
problems that they have. And for me, I connect with that. So from a writing standpoint, that's always my go-to. And I hope that you could kind of feel it in the record. A lot of it is
for sure.
about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Like
for
my
sure.
struggle. The only thing that matters to me, like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to make a lot of money, obviously.
Yeah.
But the thing that matters to me the most is ultimately if I play a show, if I can have one person come up to me and be like, dude, Aurora, wow, that song's about depression. I get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That song means a lot to me. Like that's more of what I want to do. I want to do it to help somebody that doesn't know that they need the help until they hear it.
Right.
So for me, that's my writing. So there's a band from Arizona called The Maine that they were huge for me. I met them when I was 16 on my 16th birthday. They're still one of my favorite bands behind Tom Petty. Super big influence. I love their music. I love writing songs kind of in the footsteps of how they approach writing. I think they're
Right.
great. And then obviously there's a couple guys from around here that I really respect. Like I really like the way Cody West writes. He's
Yeah. Cody West, he's a killer, man.
Dude, there's some of the homies we play with. We are lucky enough to get to play with them, pretty frequently. So I definitely. Okay, let's talk about it. The Prayer is a phenomenal.
Oh yeah, fantastic song. Fantastic song.
Anytime you give me an acoustic guitar, I'm playing that song in Higher Ground. It's just how it is.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of them, so obviously those guys, and I met those dudes like way, way, way back. So it was cool to see them. Like they gave me a Green CD like the day before it came out or something. And
Right.
like, and I was like, oh, this is my favorite band, So I have to give it to them. I'm really big fans of them. Another guy from around here, Grady Spencer. I love the way he writes songs.
Right.
And stuff like that. So definitely Tom Petty, a lot of punk rock influence, Maine, stuff like that, pretty much.
Yeah, it's funny you say like the punk rock thing because I my very first listen through and Andy's very first listen through, especially on songs like Rain Coming Down, we could hear that influence in it. Andy turned to me, he was like, this has he actually said Green Day and Blink-182 kind of feel to it. And he was like, I dig this because he was really big into that, like growing up. I was one of the weird kids growing up that didn't ever listen to much that was popular. I didn't listen to a lot of hip hop or anything. I was a very traditional country fan starting out. And then I kind of drifted towards a little bit more rock and roll as I got older and kind of like now it's a good mix of both. But yeah, we definitely could hear that coming out of the record, especially on a select few tracks. And I really dig it because that actually is a good way to get into how would you describe your music? And the reason I ask that, I know like when I talk to a lot of artists, they don't like putting labels on it. And I totally understand that because like Rhett Miller told me once, he said when he was on the show that he doesn't like putting labels on things because it feels regressive. And like, I totally get that. But, the reality is you get labeled into like a genre and you coming out of Texas, people are always wanting to throw the country label on you. So I kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to be like, describe what is Austin Upchurch's music?
I would honestly, genuinely, the easiest way I would say it would be indie rock.
Indie rock.
You know, I mean, we don't get me wrong. I'm very heavily influenced by country. Like I started singing all that because of country. Chris Ledoux is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
I grew up with that, and George Strait, and then like a lot of other guys from around here. William Clark Green.
Oh yeah, WCG's he's the man.
Huge influence on me. Daryl Dodd. I call him my funkle. We are in no way related, but that is the coolest guy. He has been so great to me. I love all his songs. And a lot of guys like that. So I'm a big country guy. I never want to say that we're not in a way country, because it is a big part of who we are. My guitar player is the twangiest country guy you'll ever see.
Yeah.
That's like his backbone of life is country music. So we're definitely in the country element, and I think it's safe to say we pretty much always be, because I love aspects of that music, that kind of music. I love a lot of songs that they write. You know, like another one, Mike Ryan. I love.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he lives like a couple miles down the road. You know.
Right.
So stuff like that, I definitely want to say for sure. But I say indie rock, indie as in, we pull from a lot of stuff. There's not really a genre, I guess. And then rock, just because I feel with how our record came out and where I kind of foresee us going, will be more rocky, but not too rocky, I guess.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you, man. Because like one thing I've noticed about within the Texas music scene, it starting with like guys around our age and everything, there seems to be this groundswell. There's plenty of like, you know, country and traditional country people that will always be a staple of that genre. Like for people within our age bracket, think like Randall King, but like there is this growing groundswell of like folks in their mid to late 20s that are making kind of like more rock leaning music that is kind of tied to country. And I think of like, obviously the big example people have is like Coetzel, and then you have like Gio and the Guns, Cody West, people like that. And I kind of see that kind of happening. And honestly, man, I dig it. Like, I really like that it's diverse enough to have the country stuff and then the rock stuff as well. That's one of the things I love about the Texas scene.
Absolutely. And I mean, all that really, it's funny because what exactly is happening with us right now has honestly really already happened before, because the people that laid the groundwork for it being so open and accepting of that kind of music to go with the traditional, I mean, is obviously Cross Canadian Ragweed and Cody Canada.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They were the first people to really, you know, kind of in a way, or I say in a way, they were the first people to rock it up. Like, obviously, our older generation made it cool to be Texas with like Willie and all those guys in the outlaw movement and stuff like that. But Cody Canada and Cross Canadian Ragweed, they were the first people for me that really were like, okay, you know what, I could, you know, throw my long hair around and headbang really hard at a, you know, I say Texas show. They're from Oklahoma, so obviously we'll say, but you know, like, and that for me is cool, because growing up as a metal and punk rock kid, you know, it was so funny for me growing up. I grew up in a small dairy town. I was wearing skinny jeans and Vans and listening to metal music. But when I got out of school, I was at home wearing Wranglers, working cows and stuff with my family.
Right.
So I had a good thing of both. So for me, it was the first time where like the clash of my two worlds, I guess, that I liked met for the first time. So I feel like that's why I really gravitate towards, I guess, that angle of this genre. You know?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like Cross Canadian Ragweed, they're like, it's a shame I know Cody Canada's still making music and he's still making fantastic music, but it's a shame that group together, you know, isn't still making music, because I'm a huge fan of theirs. Like I have the Soul Gravy record on my iPhone, that in case I run out of internet access somewhere, I keep that one on there that I can go back and listen to it. So,
absolutely, man, for sure.
But yeah, so when it comes to like, what do you have like a moment? I know some artists do, some artists don't, but did you ever have like a moment that it just kind of hits you like that? This is what I want to do. Like, I know, like, whatever, for better or for worse, this is the moment I know I want to be a musician.
Kind of. It was kind of, I guess is the only way I could say it. So, I was dating a girl when I was in college, and she was a big Thomas Rhett fan. And this was way, way, way before Thomas Rhett got famous.
Yeah, yeah.
In Abilene, at a place called the Lucky Mule. It was like a 200 or 150 person capacity room, like not very big.
Yeah.
He had one EP out that I thought was pretty cool, at the time. And she was like, "We got to go." I was like, "Right on." So I was underage. I got real drunk. I was standing front row, and I was just like, "Let me sing a song." And I had no idea how to play guitar. I could
right.
sing, just being that guy. And now, as a musician, I hate that guy. So,
yeah.
It's the ultimate sense of karma. And Thomas Rhett was so cool about it. He was like, "All right, man, get up here."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shit." Okay. So I hopped up there and he handed me the guitar and I was like, "Man, I don't know how to play that." And he was like, "All right, well, I'll play something. You sing a song." And he eventually put the song out that I sang called "Star of the Show." He put it out. But when at the time you could only find it on YouTube, and it was a video of him playing it acoustic.
Right.
And he was like, "What song are you going to sing?" And I was like, "Star of the Show." He covered the microphone and said, "Do you fucking know that song?" Yeah. And he goes, "Every word?" And I was like, "Every single word." He's like, "How do you know that?" It's like, "Man, I found it on YouTube." And he goes, "I wrote that for my wife, and the record label told me I wasn't allowed to cut it because they didn't like it."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, I can do it." And so he turned around and was like, "Hey, this is Austin. He's going to sing a song I wrote. I don't know how he knows it, but here we go." And I was so scared. Like, I mean, now I've played in front of people like that before with the band. It's kind of normal now. But I was freaking out. I was so scared to look forward at people, so I just sang and stared at him the whole time. And he was like, "Look forward, man. The people are out there." I was like, "I know they're out there. I'm looking at you, man." And so I sang the whole song. And when we got done, his bus was conveniently parked right next to the car that I was in.
Right.
So we were walking by, and I walked up, and they were like, "Hey." He came out and talked to us. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, man, what's the name of your band?" I was like, "I don't have one." And I was like, "I don't even know how to play guitar." And he's like, "Oh, well, you don't sound bad. Maybe you should look into that." And I went home and was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And then I taught myself how to play guitar in my dorm room. And my buddy Ben caught me singing. And dude, like, you would think it was like right when you hit puberty and you're taking a shower and someone walks in, you're like, "Oh,"
right.
Threw the guitar across the room. I was so embarrassed. I was like, "Man, I'm sorry. Oh, I suck." And he was like, "Dude, actually, that was pretty great. Sing me another one." And I guess after those two moments, I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is something I think I can do and I want to do. And I couldn't find a job when I graduated college, so it was the only thing I had to fall back on. So, which has really pushed me into it. But yeah,
dude, that's a hell of a story. It's funny that Thomas Rhett is like a big indicator of how you got into music and started your career.
And it's so funny because I've told a few people, and they're like, "That didn't happen." I'm like, "Dude, I'm pretty sure the pictures on my Instagram of me and him, I got X's on my hands, no hair."
Yeah.
Like, it was wild, man. It was super crazy.
That's hilarious, man. So yeah, when it comes to like, I guess I want to talk about songwriting for a moment, because I'm a big songwriting nerd. Like I've been writing for the last like 5 years since I was in college. Because like when you were saying like, like you battled with depression and everything, I've battled with depression at times in my life, and like I see songwriting for me as kind of like a cathartic way of like being able to put down on paper and into song things that I'm feeling that is a hard time, I guess, like expressing. So like when it comes to songwriting, like I'm always interested when I talk to artists of what their process is, because everybody's is different, right? Like, do you write alone most of the time? Do you co-write? And I guess, and the second part of that question is, does it normally start with like the hook or the lyrics first, or is it like a melody and then it kind of goes from there?
It's for me, it's kind of sporadic. I would like to consider myself a songwriting nerd as well. So I like to constantly and consistently try new things to always keep creative, I guess. So when I first started writing, I wrote solely by myself, and I wrote nothing that was good, and I hated it.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
So, I got introduced to a guy who actually lives in my hometown who helps. He's like I don't even know what you call it. He helps with a radio thing around here called Texas Red Dirt Roads with Justin Frizzell. So I met him, and he's a writer as well. But he does he writes books and poetry and songs, all kinds of stuff. So when I got with him, we wrote a couple songs. We wrote January Rain, and I loved it. It was the first song I think we ever wrote.
And that was the first song I ever heard of yours, actually, was January Rain. It popped up in a playlist one day, and I was like, this is pretty good. And then I saw you dropped a record, and after I saw like some people talking about it on Twitter, and I was like, I've been hooked since then.
It's so funny because I genuinely hate the recording of that song because I had the CD when
Oh,
every time
wow.
I hear it, I just hear, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wrote that song and I loved it, and it was my first experience like ever, pretty much, with a co-write. And it was
Right.
me, my buddy Aaron, and then another one of my buddies from my hometown. His name is Ian, and we just kind of, that's when the co-writing part really came in, and I really fed off of that for a long time. So then I met another writer from Fort Worth. His name's Rob Redwine. He's freaking incredible. Like, the guy is a wordsmith. There's been songs that I've written but I never really did anything with, and I'd write 5 lines and be like, and because for me ultimately it's, I don't care if I write it or if somebody else helps me write it. Here's the idea and I want to do it justice. I want
Right.
it to, like, I want it to be powerful enough to do what I want it to do. So I want to make sure it's right. So ultimately, I like being part of the songs. There's 2 on our record that I really wasn't, but so it's important for me to ultimately, at the end of the day, make sure the song is strong. So I
Right.
don't care how we really get there. So the co-writing part, I did that, and then for the most part, the whole record, I pretty much wrote all of it except for 2 songs by myself,
Right.
which for me was new because I had a shift, kind of change in heart with January Rain. I was going through like breakups at the time, so that was my main influence of, when it comes to writing for me, it's when in doubt, write it out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So that's how we started going with January Rain, breakup stuff, and then All Wrong, same thing. And then we got into like the stuff after that, like Homesick and 100 Thoughts, Penelope, and all that. So with Penelope and Remember When, I was listening to a lot of the band called The Main,
Hmm.
and they have really just awesome nostalgic sounding songs a lot of the times. And I really craved that, and I wanted to be able to do it. So I looked and looked and looked for ways to finally be able to do it. And so Penelope, I pretty much honestly freestyled that entire song.
Right.
I was listening to a chord progression, and I was with my buddy Andrew Sevener. He was on The Voice. We were at his house, and we were getting ferociously intoxicated on like a Monday. I was like, I want to write a song about my first car, and I called it Penelope. It was a piece of
Yeah.
crap. And he was like, okay, well, if you were going to do it, how would it sound? And I pretty much just sang the song as is, relatively right off the top of my head, and he just wrote it down.
Right.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. And I was like, cool. And then when we went into the studio, we kind of switched some stuff up on it. And then Remember When was pretty much the same way. I was like, I want to write a song about my hometown, but I don't want it to be about my hometown to
Right.
everybody else. Ultimately, it's important to make sure that your consumer connects with everything that you're
For
saying.
sure.
Can go, okay, this is conducive to this moment for me, which at that point makes it their song. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately for me the big goal. So, like, that's my whole deal. So when I went into writing songs by myself, I found it difficult to really crank stuff out like in a fast manner. I'd have to really sit down and process and digest, write 3 lines, not write for a week, and then write 3 lines. And,
Right.
well, it was a little different. But ultimately, the one thing that I think is cool with songwriting, and Tom Petty said it, like I said, big Tom Petty fan. I've watched his documentary like 1,000 times. And his whole thing on songwriting is, I don't know how it works. It's like lightning in a bottle. When it's there, it's there. And when it's not, it's not. I don't ask questions. So that's kind of ultimately my philosophy, but I'm always looking for new ways to constantly spark creativity, so.
Oh, for sure, man. And I definitely agree. Like, when you have a great idea, it just kind of pours out of you. And like, sometimes when you sit down and you try to write something, it just, it won't happen. So
yeah, it's hard to force it for me. So I have to, I'm the king of 3-liners.
right.
I'm like, ooh, there's a pan on the wall. Oh, wow, that's incredible. And then I'll write lines down, and then I'm like, I don't know where to go from there. Scrap it, and then I move on. So.
Oh yeah, I feel you on that. They're my favorite line on the entire record is a line from For a While, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't mess it up. But I love the part in the I want to say maybe it was the second verse. I can't remember off the top of my head, where you go, seasons change, but people don't, and I know you won't, but at least you're honest. Like, man, that's killer to me, just because it's so true for most people. But like, I think the difference, what set this apart from a lot of like songs about people not changing, is like you acknowledge that in this instance, the girl, at least she's honest about it. She's not like pretending. And that was just such a real kind of like moment that kind of, I guess, just hit me, and that separated it from a lot of songs with a similar theme.
Absolutely. And like I said, there's two songs on the record that I actually didn't necessarily write. You know, like musically we helped on Rain Coming Down, but my guitar player Reed wrote that one lyrically. And then For a While is actually a indie rock song by a band called the band Camino.
Oh, is it? Okay. I did not know that. Introduced me to a new band I'm gonna have to check out.
And it's actually really funny how it happened. So going back to the Cody West guys, I'm a big fan of them. We started playing some shows with them, and they covered a Noah Grunderson song, Legend.
Yeah, I love that song, and I actually like their version better than his. Like, I didn't think I would when I saw it on their track listing, but I ended up digging his much more.
And so for me, I didn't know that was a Noah Grunderson song. I'd never heard of the guy.
Right.
So I was like, this song is great. Then I was talking to the guys about it, and they were like, oh, no, like we didn't write that, whatever. And I was like, wait, hold up, time out. Like, it's cool to cover somebody else's song on your record.
Right.
Thing? Can we do that? And they were like, yeah. So we were playing around, and there was a song by the Maine I wanted to do on our record called Rock and Roll. I thought it was awesome. And we played that one at a show with him, and then we played For a While by the band Camino. And when we got done, those guys came up to us and were like, you have to play that song every time you play with us.
Right.
Play with us anymore. And I was like, really? And our producer, Josh Dorado, we played it for him, and he's like, oh, dude, that's really cool. Like, that sounds great. So then we were like, man, I guess we just need to put it on the record too. So.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm glad you did. I'm going to check them out. And then the other one I wanted to bring up was from Welcome to Austin. The line in that one that I really loved was, is it the situation or just my pride that keeps me falling behind? Like that one, the heaviness of that, and like just the self-doubt. Like I totally relate to that.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was great.
And going back to the songwriting standpoint and always looking for things to spark creativity. So I'm a big podcast guy too.
Yeah.
So I listened to one with Parker McCullum one time, and he was like, I like to write songs looking at myself in the mirror.
Right.
It's easy to write about flaws when you can see them in yourself. And I was like, that is the coolest freaking thing I've ever heard. I'm going to write songs staring at myself in the mirror. And that was the first time that I really like got to the bones and the juicy part of my writing, I guess, because it was the first time I started writing from, I guess, my personal standpoint instead of about, you know, like Penelope is about a car.
Yeah.
The Win is about my hometown. You know, January Rain is about a situation. All Wrong was about a situation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of people want to know, how do you feel? What is you? And all this stuff. So that was my first time to really do that. And so with Welcome to Austin, I was like, you know, I'm going to write about the one thing that I deal with every day. And it's my internal mental struggle with everything and everything. Yeah. So and it was funny because when I titled it Welcome to Austin, a couple of people hated on it. They were like, that's the dumbest name I've ever heard. And I'm like, it's about me. I don't care, you know? So I honestly, for me, that's one of my favorites. And then another one, it was one I was kind of worried about when we put it on. It's pretty much the same thing, but I wanted to write it from a point of me looking at somebody else, I guess.
Right.
Because Better Days for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I started writing that song a long time ago, and it didn't come to fruition until here recently. So that one, honestly, in my 100% opinion, is my favorite song I think I've ever written in my entire life.
Yeah.
And so with Welcome to Austin, it was my first introduction of, oh my gosh, okay, I can write about songs that are internally how I feel. That's cool. And then we had songs like Aurora, which really swung that way too. And that's where the whole record came in, which was nice. But yeah, so Welcome to Austin is really cool. And my favorite line from that song is on the inside I'm dying slow, but on the outside you'll never know. And it's like the most, if you have depression thing you get.
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm always, anytime you see me ever, pretty much the smiley guy, hey, what's going on?
Right.
But if you see me when no one's around, I'm just like pitiful, lay in my bed.
It's one of those things where people think you're very self-confident and you appear very self-confident, but in the end, like, you question so much of what you do, question everything. Yeah, because like that's why I think I really relate to that song with Welcome to Austin, is like the self-doubt, the self-questioning. Like it's a very relatable thing for a lot of people, even if they don't want to admit it. And I'm the first to publicly admit, I mean, I deal with self-doubt constantly. So it's like songs like that really hit me pretty hard. So, I mean, that one's a jam, man.
Absolutely. And with that being said, it's a perfect segue in for me to tell you this, and it's amazing. So when I was writing this entire record, the whole record is obviously called Breakdown, because it turned out to be kind of a concept record. Every single song on that record is in some way something that makes me feel like I'm going to have a mental breakdown.
Right.
Songs like Honey, like I have a girlfriend, her name is Brooke. I love her. She's very nice. I want to be able to get her nice things. I would like to get her a house and stuff like that. I can't do it.
Right.
So, damn it, that's something that bothers me. It makes me really feel bad. And so that song all the way down to the very last song of Better Days. And the reason that song is specifically last is because the whole record you get, like, Welcome to Austin introduces it. Okay, wow, this is a record about mental stuff and how you feel, how you deal with it. And then it goes down the entire song list of stuff like that, going into like self-control. I have problems with this and that. Why can't I fix it? Why can't I change?
Right.
All down into Aurora of, I'm feeling uninspired. This feeling killing me. That's the first thing of, the whole record is about depression, but we're not saying what it is.
Exactly.
And so then you go into Better Days, which is like, I wanted it to sound like, because it's ultimately about me looking at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to sound like I was looking at you and singing about you.
Right.
So for me, it was very, very important to end the entire record on something that wasn't this feeling killing me. Wow, this is a very depressing record.
Yeah.
Like that. I wanted it to be like, okay, it's cool to be not cool. Emotions aren't scary. You just got to know how to deal with them. So at the very last thing I wanted anyone to hear on that record is something very positive.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it ends with just wake up each morning and try to find your way and keep chasing better days. Because that's like my philosophy in life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's cool that you did that and you bring that up because, like, it just underscores our conversation we had earlier about people that don't listen to records. Like, I think that when a record comes out, you should listen to it in sequential order. And it's for that reason you spelled out right there, because if you listen to the thread that ties the songs together thematically, like if you don't listen to them in order the first time you listen to it, like you miss some of that stuff. And so I mean that just perfectly sums up why that should be done in my humble opinions.
and for me, exactly. And that's one thing that I think that a lot of people, even some artists including, they don't really look at that. And that was something that I really wanted to make sure, like, track list for that record was something that was very important. Like, I spent weeks going over that, like, go here. It's got to be this way. It's got to do this. This is the ultimate story I want to tell in 10 songs and how I want it to end. So, like, for me, it was easy we're going from Welcome to Austin and we're ending with Better Days, but how are we going to get there? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Totally get that. Yeah, man, I agree with you. And like, I guess before we get into what I like to call the lightning round, that's mix of music and just other things for us to kind of get to know Austin Upchurch. You might not have yet, but like, have you ever had a chance to either visit up in North Carolina or play shows up in North Carolina?
I have not, actually. I think I might have been to North Carolina once when I was younger, just on my vacations, but I've never actually go up there as an adult. I want to.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully, one of these days y'all will be able to play a show up here, because as we like to tell artists that are inclined for these kind of things, I don't know whether you are or not, but we'll gladly get you guys a beer if you come up here and shoot the shit, and maybe do an in-person interview at some point, because Zoom is awesome, but it's not as fun as the in-person interview. So,
for sure.
All right, so let's get to the Country and Cold Cans lightning round. And like I said, it's going to be a mix of music, some it's just a few questions. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but a few questions about music, a few questions about I guess your interest in things. And you kind of answered the first one already, but I'm going to go and ask anyway since I had it written down. Favorite artist, go.
Favorite artist, I'm going to say the Maine. Or actually, no, that's a lie. I'd say favorite band. Favorite artist, Tom Petty.
Tom Petty. All right. What's the favorite venue you've played?
I'm going to have to say it just because it's like, it was the end all be all from when I started. Magnolia Motor Lounge in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard of Magnolia Motor Lounge. I've only been to Texas once, and I've been to Austin back in February. But I want to get back down that way some more when everything kind of clears up to kind of go to some of these legendary dance halls. But
It's funny because it's really not a dance hall. It's a little bar,
mhm.
and the stage is huge, but they consistently have the best bands in
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah.
Anytime you go in there, there's a guy from Idaho. His name's Jeff Crosby. We
Okay.
went to watch Cody and them play because they're the homies. And he opened, and I was like, Jesus Christ, who is this guy? How did he get here? Like, and he's now one of my favorites that I listen to all the time. Like, they just always have good live music. The bar is like the hub for musicians in
Right.
Fort Worth. I met freaking Ryan Bingham in there just walking around.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah. Like, it's just the coolest, like, atmosphere wise for a musician. It's the coolest bar. So I'm gonna
Oh
say
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm jealous about Texas is the amount of bars, venues of any kind like that just has awesome live music almost year round is fantastic. North Carolina has a handful, but it's not as prevalent as it is down there. But all right, so when you guys are touring, what are some van jams y'all have in circulation when you're on the road?
Easy. Any song ever written by the Stories so far. Their entire repertoire is always on repeat. The main, we love getting into some like 90s, 80s country music.
Right.
Oh man, it gets loud in there. It gets wild. So that, and we also secretly love to get down to just like really cheesy pop music.
Oh
Hall
yeah.
Oates is always on the hit list.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Look, Hall & Oates is a classic, man.
Oh, so anything in that area, I guess. So.
For sure. So, what is one person, whether past or present, if you could play a show with them, who would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna go easy and just say Tom Petty. Just
Tom Petty. Hey, look, man, there's nothing wrong with sticking with Tom Petty on that one for sure.
I would literally do anything to just be able to meet Tom Petty and smoke a joint with him one time. That's all I want to do. You know.
Oh yeah, look, man, Tom Petty is one of the great. I made the argument the other day to some of my co-hosts on here. We're planning on doing a show soon on who we think is the greatest American artist of all time, or American. And I like my pick was Tom Petty. Not to give away any spoilers for a future episode, but they had some other good options in there, but I still will go to my grave saying it's Tom Petty.
Absolutely, I'm with you right there.
Yeah,
call me. Let me argue with you.
Yeah. So, college or NFL football?
Oh, college, absolutely.
College. Oh yeah. I mean, look, college football in the South is almost like a religion. So I feel you on that.
You wouldn't believe the team that I support them.
That was actually my next question. So go ahead.
I'm a huge University of Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan.
Really? Okay. Well, since you got to tell me how a kid from a small town in Texas ended up a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan.
Actually, like my grandma, she lives right in front of us. Her family's from Indiana.
Okay.
Kind of got a little around. Everybody else in my family is, diehard anything Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So they all like UT and all that.
Yeah.
Pretty much the closest big one that they care about.
Yeah. I always say that like people in Texas that are UT fans are like the people in North Carolina that are UNC fans. And me, I hate UNC. The University of North Carolina is the worst institution in the history of ever. I'm a big North Carolina State Wolfpack fan.
I agree with that on the UT standpoint. I'm not a UT fan.
Yeah. It's just the big, easy school for people to pull for. And for something in me wants to go against the grain on that.
Absolutely. Like for me, if I have to root for a Texas team, I'm either going to go for TCU just because they're Fort Worth or Tech for sure.
Yeah. Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Love it. Lubbock is the best.
So, favorite late night fast food chain to hit?
Favorite fast food late night. I'm gonna have to say Whataburger because that's pretty much when I go late night, the only one that's open.
Yeah. Look, man, I had my first experience at Whataburger. Well, technically, the first time I went was 2 years ago when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was at Kane's Ballroom to see Turnpike Troubadours and American Aquarium, killer show, and I stopped by Whataburger on my way to the airport, but I had to go through a drive-through, didn't really get the full experience. When I was in February, when I was in Austin, I got all the guys from North Carolina to go down to Whataburger. And this was me not being from Texas and not knowing how things are at Whataburger. I went in there and I ordered a large drink thinking that a large drink was going to be a 32-ounce drink like it is here. Nah, man, that Joker was literally like, what was it, 48, 50 ounces, something like it was insane.
Oh, yeah. They used to, you wouldn't believe it. They would give you a bucket. Like it had a handle on it.
Jeez.
You would literally it was awesome.
I will say, if you ever come to North Carolina, it's a different type of burger, but our pride when it comes to the burgers is Cookout. It's a char grilled burger that typically they've started to open some indoor ones, but historically they've been just double-sided drive-throughs. But that's the late night go-to spot for college kids in North Carolina.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to try it out.
Yeah, you got to try it out. All right, so go ahead.
Fast food for sure. So anything that's fast food related, I'm all about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, and since we said Whataburger, I got a very contentious question for a lot of people I've talked to from Texas, and my co-host who's a truck driver and spends a lot of time in Texas. Spicy or fancy ketchup?
Oh, spicy, dude. Absolutely. The answer is always spicy.
Spicy. I'm a recent spicy ketchup convert in that Whataburger ketchup because I was dead set against it the first time I went because I'm a big ketchup guy. And I just was like, what the hell? I was like, I'm not doing anything different. Finally tried it. And I got to say, man, it was pretty good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, all right. And I guess we'll end on this one. What's your beer of choice?
Oh, now that one's really hard.
Yeah.
I used to be a diehard Bud Light guy.
Okay.
But when I started being a musician and I realized that a lot of people don't let you pay for things anymore, so I never get to just order a Bud Light. I just get what you give me. I'm going to throw you a curveball. I'm a big Busch Light fan.
Busch Light? Okay. That's kind of that's more of more people I've encountered from Oklahoma like Busch Light than I've encountered in Texas.
The reason that it got me is my girlfriend's family, they own a bar in Missouri.
Okay.
I go up to Missouri and I drink my freaking weight in Busch Light.
Busch Light was go ahead.
If I had a choice of buying a beer anywhere, it would either be Busch Light or Shiner Bock.
Yeah, Shiner Bock's fantastic. I'm a big fan of that one. I've had of the Texas specific beers, Shiner's probably my favorite. Lone Star is all right. But the one that I think I liked the most it's not because it's so good. It was just because of the story behind it. I finally had a chance to drink Pearl in a can. And like we don't have that here at all. So it's like, so I finally had the opportunity, like me and my brother were in Tulsa at I can't remember the name of the bar there. The Mercury. We were at the Mercury, and we'd always heard it in a David Allan Coe song, and we'd always want to try it. Well, me, my co-host Andy, and my brother, we literally drank the entire stock that they had that night out of Pearl, and it was crazy, man.
Let me tell you, if you like Pearl in a can, you have to go to Magnolia Motor Lounge in Fort Worth. They're the only bar I've ever seen in this area that has it. And I will go in there, and it's like $2 for a beer.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy cheap.
And I will go in there and smash Pearl Lights until the end of time. So
yeah.
Pearl in a can's the best.
Good deal, man. Well, I guess that's a good one to end the lightning round on. And I want to say thank you again, man, for taking the time for doing the podcast. I mean, you got a killer record. If there's anything you want to plug, whether it's your tour dates, your website, or anything where people will find out more about you, I mean, the floor is yours.
I mean, definitely, we're starting to get in on our YouTube game. So definitely look at our YouTube channel. We're doing some videos and trying to really get some live stuff and recordings and all that stuff up there for people to consume. So definitely check that out. I would love to give you a full calendar year of shows to plug, but we don't really have that much right now still. So we got a couple coming up. I know we're in Brownwood this weekend, Brownwood, Texas. So that'll be cool. We have some other ones that I can't remember. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. Just we have a lot of new merch on our merch store, austinupchurchmusic.com. Definitely check that out. We will ship anywhere, anytime. We don't care. So
sounds good, man. Hey, look, any way we can help get you into the North Carolina market, hey, look, we're down for that. So,
dude, I would love to. We were really hoping 2020 was going to be our year to really expand because we started moving out into the Colorado, Missouri, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We had big plans for 2020, but
for sure, man. So, hey, thanks again for taking the time and coming on this episode of Country and Cold Cans.
Dude, anytime, man. Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it soon.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, man.